Hi, welcome to Engage. I am Elizabeth Moreau, and I'm one of the Methodist ministers here. I teach here at Kingwood United Methodist Church, and I'm proud to be a part of Engage. It's an important ministry. It brings you and your family together, and you study Scripture together. It's a wonderful thing. It helps you to grow. Our story today is about the Samaritan woman at the well. It's found in John 4, verses 4 through 28, I believe. If you would turn there now, it's about a woman who would like to belong and doesn't belong in her community at all. She comes to discover that she belongs with Christ. Hi, welcome back. The woman at the well is an interesting woman. She's a Samaritan woman in a community where Jesus really doesn't belong. He's come from outside and he's passing through town, so to speak. Women at the well would go early in the morning, so they had all of the things that they need for the day. They'd have water for cooking, water for bathing, water for cleaning, different things. Everybody went to, the women gathered at the well. It was common practice in that day and age to gather at the well early in the morning. The woman goes in the middle of the day, tells us that she doesn't want to be seen, that she doesn't want to encounter other people, and is afraid or embarrassed one way or the other. As you read on along, you discover that this woman's had 5 husbands, now living with her 6th husband. Now, divorce isn't all that unusual in our society. In fact, it's pretty common. However, in her society, it was unheard of. And the only way she could have been through 5 men is if all of them had died, and that's very unlikely. Now she's living with a man that she's not married to. And she has every reason to be embarrassed because the ladies would shun her and ostracize her and make her feel ridiculous or make her feel less than, immoral, not good enough. That is an awful feeling, to feel that way. And we do that to one another in all sorts of different ways in our society. People who are not as well educated, or people who have less money, or people who can't afford nice clothing, things like that. Different people feel left out and feel like they don't belong, which is really a shame. This woman that's how she feels. She feels like she doesn't belong. So she goes to the well, and Jesus approaches her. That is also unheard of in her culture and in her day and age. A man should not approach a woman at all. Women were not allowed to talk to other men beside their husbands or family members. And he was a Jew, and she was a Samaritan. And the Jews and Samaritans didn't get along at all. So they competed for who had the pure religion. And Jesus obviously is convinced the Jews do, and I think he's right. But so the lady is very uncomfortable to begin with, and then Jesus asks her, and this is really, really important. He asks her, he tells her to go and get her husband, and she says back to him, I don't have a husband. He goes, no, you've already had 5 husbands, and you're now living with the 6th man. What's really interesting is that Jesus knows her. He would know that she didn't feel like she belonged. He would know that she was uncomfortable and didn't want to be around the other women. You notice when the disciples come back, all of them are very surprised to discover that Jesus is talking to this woman. It's just not a common practice at all. It was a very unusual circumstance. So Jesus is talking to this woman, and he tells her the truth about herself. The woman immediately recognizes that he is telling the truth, and then she leaves. What's interesting about the lady is she becomes the very first evangelist because Jesus spoke to her, because Jesus knew her. She became the first female evangelist in the Gospels, maybe the first evangelist altogether. And she goes back and she brings all the Samaritans out to meet him, and the story goes on from there. But Jesus knew her, and that's an important thing to understand. When Jesus looks at us, he knows each one of us. He knows the ways in which we think we belong and the ways in which we think we do not belong. I will tell you, I think teenage years are terrible for not belonging. We never feel like we quite fit in with everybody else. We either have our hair won't do right, or we have too many pimples, or we're starting to shave before we're ready to shave. Other people have started shaving. We just don't, it's a hard time to fit in and to belong. Everybody wants to be one of the bunch, and nobody feels like the same banana. It's a terrible circumstance. The truth of the matter is that you always belong with Jesus. Always. He loves you, and he knows you well. Before you ever tell him the truth about yourself, he knows who you are. And you belong in his heart because of his great love. He loves you with an everlasting love. And you can never not belong. You can never suffer from acute loneliness. Nothing you'll ever face will pull you away from Jesus because you belong to him. He already knows who you are. Sometimes that's sort of scary. I don't think I want Jesus to know everything I'm doing. But the truth of the matter is, he already knows who you are. I want you to think about the ways in which you feel like you don't belong. And then realize that Jesus knows you. Think about that. What are some of the ways you don't belong? And then realize that he understands and he knows. And you're not hiding anything from him at all. He is eager for you to come to him so that he can ease any concerns and fears that you have in your life. Now then, I want you to think about the people who feel like they don't belong when they're around you. That's much harder. There are a lot of people who feel like they don't belong. They're not as good as everybody else. What are ways that you could make them feel like they belong? This is a woman who is in a religious community and was shut out. Religious communities do that sometimes. It would be an awful thing for Jesus to come and say, but I knew your neighbor and you didn't let her in. That would be an awful thing for us. I encourage you to think about ways in which you do belong and others wish that they belonged as well as you. And I wish that you would also think about ways in which you don't belong and know how and consider how it hurts and how difficult that is. I thank you for joining me today.